Hey, what's up, y'all? Source and Company Podcast. Once again, I am your host, Source, of course. You can always follow me on Instagram or Twitter, Instagram and Twitter, matter of fact, at Smitty Source on both of those. And you can always subscribe to the Source and Company YouTube channel where all the episodes are housed. All right. So today's special company is a military man. We have a Marine of over 25 years, the military advisor a military advisor to the U.S. ambassador to the Philippines. His name, David Bauman. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing good. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing all right, man. So we have a 12-hour difference, time difference in where we are.
That's right.
So we had to catch a time that was fairly reasonable for both of us. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
You're Knight and I'm Dave.
That's right. It's working for me.
How's your day been today, actually?
Not too bad. Actually, today was the first day that they modified the enhanced quarantine procedures here and the restrictions. So I could actually walk in my village with my dog as long as I still had a mask. But before today, since March 16th, you couldn't do anything. The only things that were open here were hospitals, gas stations, grocery stores, pharmacies, and that was it. So you couldn't leave your house unless you had the intent of leaving the village to go to one of those places. You have to have a quarantine pass. You have to wear a mask everywhere you went. There's only one person per car. The dog wasn't even allowed to go out, and so it was very restrictive in nature.
Wow. So you are where exactly?
I live in Makati, Manila, which is a portion of the city itself in Metro Manila.
Okay.
And they call them barangays here. They're like little communities, villages. This one's gated, so we're lucky enough to have security where I live, but becomes very restrictive.
Is it military? Is it specifically military where you are?
No,
Okay.
no, not at all. No, the Philippines has a lot of elite families. What I mean is that those that are lucky enough to come through money, come by money, they're able to build a house. And houses here are built with bricks. I mean, like the cinder blocks.
Yeah.
There's no wood homes here because the typhoons that roll through here so much would just tear everything apart. So
Philippines. So you said the typhoons?
yeah, we just had one yesterday.
Really? So okay.
Yep.
Explain. I mean, not that you're a weatherman or anything, but explain the typhoon and how it kind of, like, I guess your preparation for such a thing as being there for so long.
Right. The good thing is I've lived in the Pacific before. So I've lived in Hawaii. I've lived in Okinawa, Japan. My wife lived in mainland Japan. She was also in the Marines on active duty, did her time and then moved on. I say time as if it's punishment. She served and she got out into the contractor world and that's how we met. So preparing for a typhoon over here is no different than preparing for one for a hurricane in the United States. They tend to be very frequent here. They call this area the Ring of Fire. It's got volcanoes, typhoons, earthquakes. So when you talk about from Japan all the way down to Australia, it's very problematic with a lot of calamities, earth type calamities that affect the people here.
Wow.
So preparing for one, just like anything else, have some essential needs on hand, water, food, prepare for it to flood.
Does it happen often though? Or I guess, would it be more expected more expected than natural disaster here?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yeah. These guys are hardened characters, man. They've gone through so much, and typhoon rolling through here is, they have two seasons. They have rainy season and summer.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
So
It's a life.
so it's not right. And I mean, when you were raised in it, that's all you know. That's you become accustomed to it, and you build defense systems for yourself,
Mhm.
and your surroundings. So they do really well here. When we first got here 2 years ago, it rained a lot. I mean, it wouldn't be nothing to watch people walk around with water up to their hips or their knees because the
It's,
streets. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's funny that you said the thing about the weather. A friend of mine that's actually spoke with a couple of weeks ago on the show had gone to Iceland, and he said that the
Oh
kids,
yeah.
the people were playing outside as it was pouring down, raining, and he asked one of the locals about it, and they said, "There's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing."
Bad preparation.
Yeah, yeah, got to be prepared. That's what it comes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm I was born in Virginia, and I've lived probably 8 to 10 years, give or take some months of my life in Virginia. Um, but Chicago is something I spent a preponderance of my younger years growing up all the way until high school. So, when you talk about like cold weather and like it was all about, you get used to it, you acclimatize to just about anything.
Right.
Um, but man, those were brutal times. For me, the lakefront effect. So I prefer it to be colder than hot, but here it's the same. It's like California and San Diego where it's the same temperature all year round.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you just get used to it, you know.
Gotcha. Can't knock the hustles. Can't knock it at all.
No, not at all.
You actually have a specific connection to Richmond. Like, well, I meant to mention this at the beginning, but
Yeah.
you do have a connection to Richmond, which I try to stick to mostly people who have some type of connection to Richmond. So, but your
Yeah.
connection is small but very significant. So,
Yeah.
you want to explain?
Yeah. That's a great question. So I moved to Virginia Beach and went to high school at Green Run, um, and there, it's Virginia is a big military, state. Like it
Absolutely.
supports the military big time, and all the way from DC down to the Tidewater area. There's nowhere you'll go in Virginia where you won't run into somebody who has served the country through the military in some form or fashion. So when you interview me, that my thoughts are like, oh, I'm pretty humbled actually because there are quite a few of us who are from Virginia who have served our country well, and I'm just one of many, and so I'm grateful that I get to give you my story, my testimony. But so I went to high school in Virginia Beach, and I joined the service. My dad was in the Navy, so that's what brought us to the Virginia Beach area from Chicago, and and the recruiter got us. It's like it's a big Navy area, so to join, I was a high school ROTC junior ROTC kid in the Navy. I had a Marine sergeant who helped us. He instructed us, so he kind of influenced me um, to join the Marines. And I joined the Corps with 7 other guys. So it was a big pull at one point for all of us to join the Marine Corps. Same recruiter, lucky him. Um, but to ship out of the state of Virginia, and I'm sure that's still the case today, is that there's a military enlisted processing station. They call it MEPS, and it's located in Richmond, and that's the co-located or the centralized area for all people in Virginia who are recruited to join the military to
Right.
process through. So you got to go to medical, you got to do all your administrative paperwork, you have to swear in, say the oath of enlistment. And so Richmond, and you got to stay there a couple of days. It's not a one and done type thing. And normally you do it like twice. So you do like an initial in processing, and then before you leave, you do it again. If you're lucky enough, you'll do it twice. If you're not, meaning their recruiter got you that same day, took you to MEPS, and you went to boot camp. So I remember Richmond for that reason alone. It was the last day I had some sort of liberties, my own freedoms to do things before I went and went to boot camp in Paris Island, South Carolina. So that's why it's.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's my connection to Richmond in a small sense.
Well, that's an important connection because, as you mentioned, your last day of being a regular civilian, and now entering the military officially. And again, thank you for your service. I really wonder what do you remember from that first very beginning? Was there you had your dad who was, I'm sure he gave you some advice or some things or what to expect. What do you remember about that just initial time?
I've always been a guy to compartmentalize most of my life. So anything that's been traumatic, I've been able to store it away. So like diving deep into that memory, and I don't say it's traumatic. I just remember, the Marine Corps, it is different in a way that from its processing point, when people go to recruit training, nothing about recruit training, I don't care what service you join, it's fun. I mean, it's not like summer camp. And I know we banter with each other from service to service. And some boot camps are, the time is different. Ours is 13 weeks. So it's the longest of the services. And what I remember the most was it's on an island for starters. And before you go through the gate, the bus driver makes everybody, or what I remembered at the time is the bus driver made everybody put their chin on your chest. So we weren't allowed to look out the window, because when you were going onto the base, it was dark. They do it at like 2 a.m. So you're not focused. You're not really aware of your surroundings. You're already tired. We were on a 10-hour bus drive from Richmond. It wasn't a bus. It was like a 10-pack van,
right?
10-passenger van. And when we got to Beaufort, South Carolina, they put us on a bus. So from the bus, it was like the transformation was beginning, And so all these recruits get on the bus, and they're from everywhere on east of the Mississippi, and that's how the Marine Corps. You either go to Paris Island or California, Camp Pendleton, and that's the dividing line. So if you live east of the Mississippi, you'll go to South Carolina.
Gotcha.
And so what I remember the most is the smells. The smell of the island, the South Carolina air from the muddy swamp air, to the temperature drop. Even at 2 a.m, it was very muggy. And then when you stop, a drill instructor comes on the bus and he gives you this really quick speech on how fast you're gonna get off the bus, put your feet on yellow footprints, and basically get ready.
So that's real.
And then
that's real.
oh, it's real. It's real. And if you come with some ego, it's humbling. You quickly lose your ability to control anything you do in life. Like, I got to go to the bathroom. Nope. You got to ask permission. You can't just go to the bathroom. You're hungry. Well, you're not going to eat whenever you want. You can't just speak freely. So you lose those, and I don't say rights because, it's a process, but you lose the ability to just freely move about the area, So those are the things I remember the most. And then from then I put up these blockers. Like most people do, I'm sure. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't really think about the process or how you get from one stage to the other mentally. But of course, compartmentalizing things makes sense because, I mean, it would be a lot if you just took everything in and held it all in at the same time.
Right.
It would drive you somewhere, you know. Not somewhere.
Yeah, and those that didn't have the ability to do that, or to just focus on the intent and the way ahead, they tended to get skyline faster. So if you were one who wanted to look around when you weren't supposed to, you got an instructor in your face really fast. If you're the one who just spoke out of line without requesting permission to speak, you got a lot of attention on you. It's like unnecessary light, right?
You
So
normally
it
would
was
say
fun in that regard.
you would normally say nobody wants that, but I guess some people still do. That power of wanting to be, I guess, not yourself, but yeah, want to be whatever you think is right in the moment and saying whatever or doing whatever, compared to knowing what you have to do at this point,
Right,
because that is what you're
right,
that's what you're here to do. So that's a whole different world.
right.
Sheesh.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's why I'm a civilian, man. That's why reason one of a million reasons.
That's fair. That's fair.
So you 25 years is a long time. I mean, however you look at
Yeah.
it, 25 years. If any part of life you think about from birth to 25, 22 to 47, you know, any part of life, 25 years is a long time. What have you noticed is maybe like totally different from when you came in to now? That's a very
Um,
hard question, but you know, take it where you want to take it.
no, that's great. Actually, that's a great question. So, like, I think I've spent a lot of time, especially during these quarantine moments, to reflect on a lot of things, right?
Hmm.
And I think if I, having done that already, reflecting on who I was at 18 to who I am now, um, I'm I'm much more calmer as a person. My life experiences has allowed me to realize that, you know, obstacles are going to be placed in your life throughout your life, no matter what you do.
Right.
And I truly believe that you're defined by how you negotiate an obstacle. How do you, there's a great book called Obstacle is the Way. And I think it really speaks to the, the truth about turning a trial into triumph. Um, and so I think reading that many years ago helped me realize that, at 18 years old, I'm full of what they call P and V. That's, piss and vinegar, and I'm ready to get at anything you give it to me. I don't know how to, like, you know, I'm not aware that I should be using my legs to pick things up. I could run through walls if you told me to. I'm just so full of, like, arrogance. And at 18 years old, that's where most men, in my opinion, are at. And so when I look now as to where I am today, I would say I'm just more appreciative of things. Um, you know, like I appreciate this conversation. Like, you just come to realize, like, life is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And at
Right.
18, everything's a sprint. I gotta, like, you know, knock everything out, get it all done. I gotta build up my so-called resume, right? A life experience. And once you realize, or you come to the conclusion that, um, what is it all for, you start to really find those opportunities of success to be a little easier, because you're not so, for me, I don't become so overwhelmed by just about anything. It's very easy to just let stuff roll off my back. you know I always say, to understand pleasure, you have to experience pain.
True.
you know so
True.
that's where I'm at, as far as, like, 18. At 18, now, pain, and now I'm just angry. I got pain and I'm angry, right? Now I'm like, nah, pain's good. Pain is okay, because it'll help me appreciate pleasure later.
Absolutely. That's a great point. That's a great point. So you told me that well, I believe you told me that you had bounced around quite a bit in the military. Well, you
Yep.
traveled quite a bit. But I wanted to ask you was, or is it mostly military related, or are you a travel guy in general?
The military has provided me a great platform to do a lot of things, and one of them is the ability to travel and see the world. Mostly on the taxpayers' dollar, the government dime, which has been great. Obviously, I did it for work, but what it allowed me to do is see and understand different cultures, or at least get exposure to different cultures and countries and ethnicities, uh, and and it's helped me evolve as a as an adult,
Mhm.
and so most of my traveling is has been for the Marine Corps. However, I've taken that, like last year, my family and I did a 30-day trip in Europe. Uh, we flew into France, trained to London, uh, trained to Amsterdam, trained to Germany, trained to Italy, through Venice, Rome, uh, flew to Barcelona, trained to Madrid, flew to Dublin. It's like, so we enjoy, and that's all in 30 days. Dublin and then Glasgow, and then we came home. Um, and I don't think we would have. I think we appreciated them, but we truly appreciate even more now since the quarantine and this COVID-19 issue, because traveling is going to be. I mean, how we see it as the new norm is going to be
Right.
vastly different. In the military, I've done the traveling for work, for deployments. It could be, uh, Guam, Spain, Japan, Afghanistan, Kuwait, Greece, Israel, Turkey. A plethora of countries I've had the opportunity to go see while in uniform or in a duty status.
Right.
Um, the Philippines. I get to live in Hawaii, not on my own dime. I have to pay myself to get out there. And so that's why I've appreciated the military. And a lot of people are like, man, how have you been able to do it for so long? And I said, well, everybody has to work.
Right.
The Marine Corps is preached the thought that the Marine Corps is a way of life. Um, and at first, it is, because you got to change your cultural understanding of things. It's a different system, it's a different institution. And once you embrace the institution, then you start to see light at the end of the tunnel, and you appreciate things differently. And that's what helped me out, is that every 3 years or so, I was able to do something else, but keep my status in the Marine Corps. So I just rotate to a new place, see a different thing in life, in the earth, and so I work towards small goals. If I looked at when I first joined and said 25 years later I'd still be in, no way,
Right.
no way. 18 years old, there's no way I would have said that, because um, we have a great pension plan. Well, we still do, but we had even better when I first joined. Was, after 20 years, you are, eligible for a pension for the rest of your life at 50% of your basic income. And so, I could have started that at 20. And then every year after 20, you accrue 2.5% more. So, at 21 years, you get 52.5%. At 22 years, you get 55%. So, so that's how it's been able. And for me, it's just been one more thing that they've been able to give me or provide me and my family that's been fantastic. So, it's incentivized me to just, because I'm gonna have to work. I mean, I
Right.
have kids. I told you that, Mike. I'm gonna have to continue to work. There's no doubt about that. But starting over, I don't know how you guys do it all the time, man. Get a job after job after job, like that's, you know, it's painful.
Well, you're kind of doing the same when you switch, I guess. I mean, you're changing jobs for a reason, but you're still
Right.
in the same field, I guess.
Right. 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 the benefit really for me, I don't have to re-interview. I don't have to take a gap and pay or, plan for that potential gap, right? So that's been a benefit. And I'm planning on retiring next summer
Oh
at
yeah,
my 26-year mark. Yeah, and that's fine. I'm ready to move on. I want to get into the school system and do one thing or another. We'll see how that all works out. Watch my kids grow. Um,
that's key.
be there as a good father figure for my four daughters.
Now I was gonna, well, I was gonna ask you about your family, but before I get to that,
Yeah,
when you travel around, so people, I mean, people respond to the uniform, how they respond to the uniform, wherever you are.
right.
Are you able to be the same person, generally speaking, wherever you go, or do you have to kind of morph to, I guess, fit the comfort of, to make it easier, to make it easier?
I think some people have to change who they are because they're not always appreciated or well received.
Right.
Um, because if we took the aggressive mindset as an American everywhere we went in the world, it's it's not it's not always well received. Not
Mhm.
everybody wants to hear you screaming. Not everybody wants to hear you say that. Well, I'm. That's not how it's supposed to be. Well, in another country, that's how it is. We might not understand it, but that's the way it is. Like if I lived as an American in the Philippines, I would have got highlighted a long time ago. Because the you know the way we're this is the best way for me to explain is that we have a domesticated lifestyle in the United States. We follow rule of law. We have the benefits of our government giving welfare to our poor. I'm a product of that. My mom was on welfare. I was raised under the old food stamp system. When it came in the book, it wasn't on a card, right? So, and there's nothing against that. It's
Right.
great. It worked out, right? And I'd say I appreciate it because I'm here today because of it. But countries like the Philippines, these third world developing countries, they don't have that. It's not available to them. So me to come here and expect there's nothing for me to walk around and see naked kids in the street and their parents are washing them because there's nowhere for them to go.
Mm.
In the United States, you'd have child protective services coming and snatching the kids up and they never see their parents again.
Sure.
But there's nowhere for them to go here. They're just going to go into another building. And yes, we want to protect the children of the future. We do. It's just not the same in every country. And that's why I've appreciated the military in that way is that I can raise my kids giving them some perspective, right? You only know as far, you only know what you're taught. You only know what you see,
Hmm.
right? So most people never, and there's nothing against people from my country. I love it. It's still the best country in the world. But most people don't leave their own state, let alone their own town, right? And they're it's easy to judge because you don't have real perspective on life or you don't gain perspective. It's not that you can't, get the news, you can't gain perspective from books or from, the media, but there's nothing like getting it firsthand.
Yeah, living it is totally different than reading about it. I mean, that's true probably in
Yeah,
anything, especially
yeah,
in a physical form, seeing whatever it is, as opposed to
yes, sir.
hearing about it from elsewhere. So
Yeah,
that makes sense.
absolutely.
So about you said you have daughters. You told me you have four daughters, all young
Yeah,
daughters, and uh, that's. But before those daughters, you were married previously. You're married now,
I am. Yeah,
and you were married previously.
I was, I'm stereotypical young man in the military. I got married at 22, 21,
Mhm.
22. Um, you know, I, the the thought of being married forever was there, right? There was intent.
I
Um,
was in the right
at
place.
60, yeah, right. I mean, so we didn't have any kids, but it lasted almost 6 years. And I look back at it, and the Marine Corps had a lot to do with it. Not the Marine Corps in particular. There's no one person I blame anything on, but the institution is not catered to having a family lifestyle when you're young,
Right.
because in any job, in any capacity, right? Marriage is difficult when you're young because you're trying to establish who you are as a human being, as a man and a woman. If I look back when I was 18 to the age of 28, I changed a lot. If I look at when I'm 18 to 43, what I am now, it's like two different people.
True.
So you either grow together and embrace each other's changes, or you grow apart. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just the facts. And a lot of people put they put it on themselves as if they've done something wrong. Just that I chose to be very active in my job, be very detail oriented. It took some time. It took time away from the household. I didn't focus on my marriage. And so, the whole work-life balance is important. And I missed it because I was young and I didn't understand it. But I promise you, it gave me real appreciation for my wife that I have today. Because I know what I want now, and it's not for
Right.
me to like spend on a ridiculous amount of work, hours at work. So
Life
not
experience.
that I don't. That's right. That's right.
So you're married now, four daughters, dude, 4 daughters. I have 2 daughters.
Yeah.
I love them. They're perfect. And from what I know, they are perfect. Everything they
Yeah.
do has been great. They've been easy on me as a parent. We've had a great time, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
You have 4 daughters. One,
Yes,
two,
sir.
three, four, and a wife. That was the first note, and a wife with that sheet.
Right.
But the
Right.
daughters, man, that is just from my experience, I will tell you what you said, the being there, that is the best thing, the most priceless part of it all. And to
Right.
me, it's probably the most meaningful from you to them, because it's it's kids with parents who are literally with them on a daily basis, but are not
Right. Right. Right.
on a daily basis, they're not
Right.
present. So especially when you are, if things go the way you plan and you do what you plan on doing next summer,
Right.
it's going to be a different world. I hope you're ready. I hope you're ready.
I don't know what ready is anymore. I tell you, you plan for it. You plan for the idea of ready, and you try to set yourself up from a spiritual perspective, emotional perspective, financial perspective. You try to do all the right things, and then there's another obstacle that presents itself, right? So yeah, I love it. But I also have a strong wife. Like she's my best friend. And so like she presents the ideal woman for me to my daughters. Right.
Mm,
So that's huge, right? I truly believe in a in a marriage when it comes to no two people get along with each other completely
of course.
100%, right? We were like, well, we never argue. Well, that's for whatever that is. That's great. But uh, but I always take in a perspective that um, appreciating each other for what you're good for, right? Really like leveraging each other. And I truly appreciate my wife for everything she's able to do that I can't, right? So she closes the gaps that I leave open, which is fantastic. So there, I hope my daughters benefit in a way that growing up as a child, I saw other kids not benefiting from. Growing up I'm a '70s baby, but I grew up in the '80s, and the
Hmm.
'80s were troubling. It was not uncommon to see single moms raising kids, right? And so kids are all over the place, and a
Right.
father figure is important, in my opinion, because I want them to be so numb to the words "I love you" that when anybody steps into their life, they're not overwhelmed with it. They're like, oh my God, someone finally loves me. As a father of two daughters,
That's real.
I'm sure you feel me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's real. Yeah. Your wife must be a rock star for real because uh, I mean, I'm hoping she has some help, but four daughters, young, that's got to be taxing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we had 4 and 5 years.
Whew.
Yeah, she's I'm telling you, man. Like they made Marvel comics after her. That's how I love.
Respect.
Yeah, for sure, for
I can
sure.
respect that. I can respect that. Let's talk about the where you are now, Philippines.
Okay.
So, military advisor. What does that entail?
So essentially, you have um, we have a footprint in most countries where we have a military footprint in most countries where they have a military, and not just a military, but different services. So I exist here because there's a Philippine Marine Corps,
Uh,
right? So I'm like an interlocutor between our Department of Defense and our State Department and the Philippine Marine Corps. We also have Army representative, we have Navy representative, we have Air Force representative. Um, and so what that does for the ambassador is it gives him, um, if it falls in my lane for, understanding, passing guidance and advising, then I will do that. The Marine Corps here is just like the Marine Corps in the United States. It is a smaller element or entity within all the branches of service, and so I spend the least amount of time interlocking or advising the ambassador here, which is okay. So I'll help out the other services with things that need to be done. If we have a ship that comes in the port here, a military ship,
mhm.
we have to facilitate the execution of that ship visit. Um, and so we have a Navy guy here who does that, but when he's out of the office, I'll fill in for him. We have tons of exercises that we do here with the Philippines. And because of that, there needs to be a military conduit, some sort of, interlocutor in order to make sure that all these activities are executed without any issues.
So, military advisor, are you the military advisor or are you one of a number of Marine military advisors
I'm the Marine military advisor,
for the Philippines?
but there are correct, but there are other military advisors here with me, which is great because we're a small team. It's a defense attaché office, and we spend a majority of our time working with our senior defense official, who spends a lot of time with the front office. We call it the front office.
I was talking to a friend of mine that's in the Army, and he, well, I was like, what should I ask? Is there anything
Yeah.
military-ish that I should ask you in this interview? And he said, what were your thoughts on other branches? Like, as you mentioned earlier, y'all give each other, from an outsider, you all give each other a hard time on
Right.
Navy, or whatever the case may be. What is your outlook on other branches? What's the best branch? I mean, Marines, obviously.
Absolutely. Well, not, so I have had, after 25 years, unique perspective, meaning I got to train recruits. So I was a drill instructor on Parris Island. I also trained officer candidates at Quantico, Virginia.
Okay.
So having gone through the training cycle, I could tell you that I appreciate our institution. I mean, look, I'm still here. I love my job. But when it comes to other services, I also appreciate them only because when you talk about when I was 18 years old, you said, what is the difference between now and then? At 18, I was a poster board guy. So you couldn't have said that we were anything but the best service. But over time, I've come to realize that nobody does it on their own. For the defense or the true defense of our nation, we are better together than we are individually.
Right.
So yes, the Marine Corps is the best institution, in my perspective, but we all serve a different purpose. The Army exists for the purpose of maintaining territory, right? So the Marine Corps is supposed to be expeditionary in nature. So if there's a conflict ashore, the Navy would, transport us. Let's keep the recent wars. I say recent, the war of almost 20 years now, as a difference. But the Navy would take us to the shoreline. We would get there, fight the good fight, come back, and when the Army arrived, right? We use the Navy, the Air Force, and the Army for support for everything, right? So we're supposed to go from ship to shore and execute an operation within hours, right? The Army gets days, if not weeks, right? So if something will pop off, it takes the Army, because they're larger, takes them time. We're smaller, so we're expeditionary in nature. So, we're all different and we serve a different purpose. The Army's not intended to protect the maritime domain, right? So you need an Army for land, you need a Navy for the sea, right? So, but if the Marine mentality ran through all of them, Marines would tell you, "Oh, that'd be great," but you can't. You know what I mean? You can't.
Right.
It's not possible.
You can't approach all problems with the same vigor, I guess.
Right. That's right. Yeah, we just created the Space Force, which falls under the Department of the Air Force, which is similar to the Marine Corps. It falls under the Department of the Navy. So, in that regard, we just all serve a different purpose. At the end of the day, we are all beneficial to the defense of our nation.
Do you think, or maybe even in your experience 25 years ago, do you think people understand which branch they're getting into specifically? Or do you think people just have an idea of, I want to be a this, oh yeah, let me do that, when there might be a different branch that would be more suitable to their personality?
Great question. Great question, because I say that the military is not for everybody. And then now splice that up, because the Marine Corps is definitely not for everybody.
Definitely. Right.
And so when you take that into perspective, do they know what they're getting into initially? I mean, think Hollywood's great in that regard, because it gives you a little bit of what you think you're getting into, but the reality of it is it's vastly different. Mm-hmm. And so that's the recruiter's job, is to not just sell, but to expose what that service is going to provide that individual when it first joins. I promise you, I had 18 to 30-year-olds join the Marine Corps, and when they're in recruit training, this is not what I signed up for. The first 13 weeks, nobody signs up for boot camp. Nobody signs up to be like, I want to live the next 4 years doing this. You know what I mean? Like, nobody does that. So it's very shocking to the system. Same thing with the other services. So do they know what they're getting into? To a degree. I would argue they probably have an idea, and they all join for different reasons. For some of them, I just want the money for college. So each of the service provides different amounts of money, and so they'll go for that reason alone.
Right.
I want to go because I love the uniform. All right. Well, I mean, I'm not going to tell you which one has the best uniform, but I'm sure you understand. And then, some say, I just want to travel. Right. How do you want to travel? You want to travel by plane, or you want to travel by a boat? So it just, or, everybody takes what's called the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test. It's the ASVAB. And that basically tells you what jobs you're going to be good with, or, capable of filling. But they don't do that till they go into the recruiter. But that same test is good for all services. So, you go in, each service has a minimum score that you're required to get. So if you test out for everything, then you should go shopping around. You should say, hey, I'm good for this. You know, like, what is that? What's the service going to give you? You know, don't, I, I tell young men and women all the time, don't do it because your father did it. Don't do it because your mom did it, or your great grandfather was a World War II, you know, sailor. Like, I get it. Like, that's a good reason to do it, but open the aperture and learn. You know, ask the hard questions. Ask the recruiter the hard questions. It's the next 4 years of your life.
Would you would you want would you want your kids to enlist if they had a choice? Obviously, they have a choice, but if 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 it wasn't for a financial reason or because you're in the military,
Yeah,
would you want them to enlist as a lifestyle?
Mike, I appreciate that question. I get it asked a lot, and you know, a lot of people, they think it would be hypocritical of my wife and I for us not to want our kids to join. I think what I want from my kids is what's in the best for them at the time. I can't craft what my 8-year-old is going to be like in 10 years.
True.
I have no idea, right? And so, depending on where she's at in her life at that moment, is the decision I will offer her. I'm not opposed to the military at all. I think it's great. But going back to what I said, it's not for everybody. I'll also say that I think pride in our country, uh, it's great, but so are other jobs, right? You can be Peace Corps, you can work for USAID, you could, there are other civil service type jobs besides joining the military that I think I would offer or show my kids first. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to say no. They came to me and said, "Dad, I want to go join the Navy." All right, tell me why. Let's talk through this. Um, but not because of the potential of something happening to them, because we all know that can happen to anybody, anywhere, anytime. You know.
That's actually one of those commercials that I've seen recently uh, for, I don't even know what service it's for, but it's like, it's the kid in uniform or whatever, doing whatever they think is what they'll be doing and trying to explain it to their parent who may not necessarily want them to enlist. So they're trying to make sure, I guess, understand what they're in it for and trying to explain it to the parent. So,
Right.
I mean, you just said the same thing pretty much. So, did they talk to you about that commercial? I feel like they might.
No, not yet. No, yeah, I don't get to see commercials over here.
Oh, that's one other thing I wanted to ask you. Does your lifestyle allow for trivial interests like sports, TV?
Oh man, that's another one. So no, I don't have access to like ESPN unless I check on the internet, right?
Gotcha.
And I do have the internet here, um, which is great. So it's a first world creature comfort uh, in a third world country. Um, and I say third world. I mean, these guys, like, they got their stuff together. You could just tell they're missing out on some things that we experience every day in our country, um, in the United States. But you know, for trivial type, no, no, our way of life changed exponentially when we moved here. You know, I would show you, we drink water out of, we don't drink water out of the faucet. It's not good for you, right? And there's a lot of places in the United States like that too, but here it's the whole country, and I live in the city, so you can't even drink city water. But
Wow.
we use a water uh, filter. I'll show you real quick, but it's really like, you know, like the,
There's your
you know, you
system.
got, right. So that's how we um, you know, we function here. But no, I don't have commercials. The good thing is I don't have the news. I don't have to watch the news on, you know, constant, you know, over and over again with the same crap.
You're
That's
living
one
the
thing I am
news.
grateful for. That's right.
You are
Part of it.
definitely, yeah. You're in the cycle, definitely. So,
Yeah.
what is the well, I can't say the end game because you've already explained your exit strategy, I guess. What is it? What does the future look like for you in your mind?
So 5-year plan is I'm going to go back to school. Um, try to get another master's degree, and then hopefully get into the education side. 10 years, I'm at 53. I just want my health.
Yeah.
I'm a two-time cancer survivor.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, I got back issues. I just want my good health. At the end of the day, I just want to be able to function. I want to be you know, a man with smiles,
Hmm.
and so, 10 years from now, who knows? I try not to look that far down the road because it's hard to attain, you know, um, I mean, it's good to have a long-term goal, but after I'm done with the service, I think I'm good with just whatever happens day to day after I get into the education side. I'd like to see my kids get through high school. That's really what the long-term goal is, right? I think
Yeah.
every parent wants to just see have kids who are alive and educated.
Yeah.
Now you're an adult. Now you figure it out. You know.
Definitely. Definitely. I have one that'll be a senior in college and one that'll be a senior in high school. So
Wow, man, how old are you? I didn't know. I wouldn't have thought you had kids that old.
I'm a
You don't
couple
mind me
years older
asking.
than you. I'm 46. I'll be 40. Oh, well, by the time this comes out, I'll be 47.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Your birthday soon, man. Happy birthday.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Yeah. That's good, man.
That's awesome though. So I mean I think we've covered everything we can cover for real.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
uh is there anything that you wanted to hit or any thought, any message that you want to share about whatever?
Yeah. I think the theme for this was basically me tied to the military and the Marine Corps specifically. But I think if I had to close on some thoughts, I would tell people all the time if they watch this or even are interested in joining. Um, take life as it comes to you. Don't run away from the things that are difficult, and you know define yourself. Um, take things head on, and make sure you come out on the back end of it, positive, and and a better person. So it's easy to run away from stuff that's difficult, um, but a person who is challenged and overcomes that challenge and turns it into triumph, uh, as they age, you know, they will look back at it. You and I could look back 20 years ago and be like, man, there's some anecdotal type stuff that led you to who you are today, and that's kind of
So
where I
true.
would be. Yeah, it's like take it as it's thrown at you, and you know, and it'll turn out to be a blessing from above. And you'll be like, okay, yeah, the service has been great to me. I appreciate it. It's not for everybody, um, but it was for me, and it worked out beautifully. So,
That is
Mike, I
awesome.
appreciate this interview, man. Not often do I get to, there's times where I get to tell people my story, but I don't get the question, and then I get an answer. So it's great. It's easier this way.
Yeah, I'm just trying to lead you to the promised land of whatever that answer is.
Right now, I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate it. How is it like in Richmond right now?
Well, we are at the point where it's kind of a phase one, phase two, phase three thing happening over the next
Oh yeah,
weeks, months. So, and even uh, there's a difference between counties and the city that they're both
yeah,
connected to, at the moment. I'm sure it'll all be, the same at some point, but, the governor wanted to open the state or open the state to phase one, whatever phase one was.
right,
And the mayor of Richmond was like, I don't see the numbers to be able to do so. So he was kind of like, I don't think we should. So it ended up
right,
and didn't open the same way that the surrounding counties open. Eventually we'll all be on the same wave, same phase. But it's
right.
interesting. It's interesting. I go out, I go out for food.
Yeah,
I go see my mom, check on her. I don't even go into her building. She doesn't understand. She understands, but she has her own thoughts about everything.
That's fair. Yeah.
I tell her I'm not going in. You sit in your car. I'll sit in my car. We'll be beside each other. We'll talk, whatever, or we'll be outside, on the facility.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm here. I'm in the house and appreciating the things there are to appreciate.
Yeah, I think this is definitely one. It's helped. I think it's helped teachers because now parents appreciate what teachers have to go through every day to get, not just one student, but 25, 30 students to do the same stuff.
Yeah.
My wife and I doing a homeschool stuff. It's been like, wow.
Think about having about the parents here. Think about having let's just say 2 children that are in different schools, different grades. And I'm thankful. I'm grateful. I'm, blessed that I have older children. I don't have that issue. But you think about people that they're at home. Some of them are working from home who've never worked from home before. 2 kids who you're supposed to be teaching, especially if you're a single parent, you've still got the 2 kids and they're both there all day with you while you're working. That is a lot. It's a lot. So I can empathize with people who are over it and they're like, man, I can't do this. And, struggling with it. Just for me, it's a different experience. And I've been able to be, find the positives and been blessed enough to be on the good side of it, I guess,
That's just it, right? It's just another obstacle.
That's it. Again, Dave, I greatly appreciate you joining me, man. This was a great conversation. And a lot of people who check it out will, whether you are pro-military, anti-military, whatever, you definitely gave a perspective that people will be able to appreciate, one way or the other.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
Thank you again. Any last words?
God bless you and your family, man. Be safe.
Same to you as well. And to everybody out there, thank y'all for checking in. Source and Company, we are